Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello. Welcome to today's episode. This is Michelle Wong, and today you have me as a solo episode. I feel like it's been quite a few weeks since I published a solo one because I have so many amazing guests and I was just excited to share the interviews with you. And also I felt like timing wise right now, this particular topic is very timely because I'm going to start offering breathwork, one-on-ones, group, and infuse programs that will include breathwork. And for those of you listening right now, it is August 2023. That's when this is being recorded. And I am in the heart, in the meat of my breathwork certification. It's a 400-hour program, and so it kind of extends. It's a 2-year program, and which sounds pretty intense, right? It kind of is. And for anyone who is curious, I did interview my my facilitator trainer, Shauna Bryant, in the last episode. Episode 143. So if you're curious, you can listen to specifically around Shauna's experience and what inspired her to create her training. And I'll share a little bit of my what motivated me to take it. And I kind of shared that in the interview with Shauna. But I'm happy to kind of tie in that story here as well. So let's kind of peel back the layers. So I'm very excited about offering breath work, and I'm also aware that breath work might not be for everybody. And I think that's part of the thing that I wanted to talk about today, and just looking at, what drew me to breathwork and also just my own awareness around it. So particularly this style, right? So there's breathwork is an umbrella term. If I say, oh, I'm leading a breathwork, class, or I'm attending a breathwork circle or whatever, it can mean so many different things, right? We might have an assumption of what it might be, but you got to look at, okay, what is it really? Because different, facilitators have different trainings. They have different ways of doing it. And it might not be the same pattern or the same breath work. It might not be the same breath work that you might think it is. So in yoga, there is what is called pranayama. And pranayama is like the yogic breath work where you might have experienced alternate nostril breathing, when you're breathing through one side of the nostril, then you're plugging the other, and it helps to balance the left and right hemisphere of your brain. It helps ease digestion. So that's one, form of pranayama. There's also lion's breath. There's that's a type of when you stick out your tongue and you exhale and just kind of get the heat out of your system, And there's also I forget what it's called, but it's more of a fiery breath where you're focusing on the exhale through the nose and you're doing it really quickly. So that generates heat really quickly. So that's more pranayama style. The breath work that I am getting trained in, and the one that I am more familiar with when I go to a breath work workshop or a circle, is an active 3-part breath. And it's a specific, very simple pattern. If you've done it a few times, it's easy to maintain in the body. But the results, or how your body experiences that pattern of breath work, is very different, I will say, than alternate nostril breathing, or even I think there's a lot of breathing practices out there, right? So I wanted to share mine and also give kind of like a heads up that it's not going to be for everybody. And I think that's been my journey, I think, with any type of healing modality. And I think years ago, I wanted to find that one perfect healing modality that is like a one size fits all, which is total bullshit because that is not even a thing. There's no one size fits all healing modality. Like, this is a thing that everybody needs, and when you do it, you know, your life is going to be great. No, like everybody is different. And so people will have their own experience, you know, receiving a certain healing modality. I will not call myself a healer. That is like that. I'm not comfortable with that at all. And I think that's kind of like what motivated me to want to talk about this at this time, since I'm going to soon be offering breathwork opportunities. And I don't consider myself a healer. I'm definitely not a therapist. And I think a lot of times people come to, you know, breath work and all these things wanting to be healed by the person who is holding space for it. If anything, I am a facilitator. I'm holding space for individuals to come and provide healing for themselves, right? There's an opportunity there. And therefore, breathwork, I feel like, is a huge responsibility. It really is a huge responsibility. And I think because it sounds maybe it's easy, I don't know, because you're just breathing, you know, you're inhaling, exhaling. That's not really what we're doing in breathwork. We are inhaling, exhaling, but it's not just I'm going to sit here and inhale and exhale, right? Like there's a pattern to it that I feel like I think people might go in thinking that, oh, it's just a walk in the park, you know, or they're not well informed before going in of what to expect. And then shit might hit the fan. And this is not to scare anybody off, but I feel like in the breath work, this breath work as a modality of potential healing, like with anything, there's a responsibility of the facilitator. And the reason why I decided to choose, like I decided to say yes to a 400-hour program. And I gave Shauna this feedback of like, I was like, what, 400 hours? That's insane. Because like I even felt 200, 250 hours was quite a lot. But I also didn't necessarily want to choose a training that was like a weekend training and then you're done, right? Off you go out into the world. Now you can hold circles and breath work and charge for it. That's very tempting. I'm not going to lie. And also because I see breathwork as being the main core of my offering and how I really want to help people, not help, but like guide people, hold space and facilitate the opportunity for other people to, for themselves to heal, then this is work that I take really seriously. And doing like just like a weekend and then, okay, I'm going to do this now, it just felt not an integrity for me. And so I would rather invest in the time and the money and have to fulfill these requirements that no one else probably has to do, right? Unless they want to be part of some global alliance breathwork thing, which quite frankly, that matters less. And I'm not poking fun at the fact that there is an accreditation that is available. I think that's amazing. To me, I'm not about chasing the titles, the names, and the certification. Like that's what I mean. I'm more about like, I want a training where like I get that additional support for afterwards, because being in the field and getting support for after, like, okay, this happened and how do I deal with that? You know, and so that for me was worth the 400 hours, you know, and worth putting the time and the effort, because you know, a lot of times in any type of training, be it yoga, Pilates, you know, all the things that I have done, it's like, it's when you're actually in the field that you're like, that's where the real learning happens. And so in my opinion, the sooner we can get out in the field and start learning, start actually experiencing the space holding and all of that, the better. And making sure that there is mentorship, quote unquote, supervision is what they call it in the more, I guess, therapeutic world. so that, yeah, but like you have the resources, you have a place to ask questions, because at the end of the day, I take this seriously, and I think that's the problem, that there are plenty of trainings out there that you can be done in a week, you can be done in a weekend, and oh, you're good to go, and then these facilitators are left kind of um, like they don't have necessarily the resource, and if something does come up during a breath work, it's like, oh, like I don't know how to handle this, like who do I go to ask questions? And I think like I have heard like of stories where um, like participants were not well informed before they went in, and I think that's where it becomes out of integrity, and that is why I decided to say yes to this 400-hour training, because, the actual breathwork pattern isn't hard, right? It's like you breathe into the belly, you breathe into the chest, all through the mouth, and then you exhale. And then you do that repeatedly. That's a cycle. Like you just repeat that, inhale, inhale, exhale, and that is the breathwork pattern. It's circular. But because it's a mouth breathing, it is activating. And people might go into a breathwork circle and not realize, like, oh my gosh, like this is actually stirring emotions up. It's stirring things up that I wasn't expecting. And then I'm feeling very emotional right now. And if the facilitator is not, did not give a heads up, right? Or doesn't give the breather full agency of like, hey, this is your experience. Please take it to your level. And if it's too much at any time, stop it, like stop the active breath, or here's a modification, then, a lot of people feel like they don't have the permission to necessarily stop, right? Because we've been taught in our culture to keep pushing through, right? To keep sticking with it. And sometimes there's good that can come from that. And then other times it's like, whoa, you overdid it, right? And so this is what's motivating me to create this episode, and also to share my experience and what I want to create and what I don't want to create in my when people come and work with me. So my I guess my introduction to this type of active breath work, I had a small taste of it back in 2017 when I was part of this group, this like I guess this women's mastermind, and towards the end of the circle or the mastermind, each one of us was kind of sharing our gift that we wanted to share. And one of the women in the group led us through like a 10-15 minute breath work experience. And that was my first time I ever had this experience. And it was very uncomfortable breathing from the mouth, because we've all, and I, nostril breathing is ideal. You want to be breathing through your nose. And in certain occasions where it's like a short period of time, right, where you are consciously, like you're doing this intentionally, breathing through the mouth, then it can have, positive side effects, right? But on the day-to-day, you don't want to be breathing, you don't want to be mouth breathing, right? You don't want to be sleeping with your mouth open and breathing through the mouth. You don't want to be mouth breathing, like you want to be breathing through the nose. Like, so let's just be clear about that. And so for me, I was very uncomfortable breathing through the mouth. Even in Pilates, it's like, we inhale through the nose, we exhale through the mouth, right? We don't mouth breathe. Like it's just very different. So, and when I was doing that little participation, like, participating in that mastermind, I felt like my body shift, like physically, like I felt like tingles in my body. It was uncomfortable. I'm like, oh my God, right? And I was doing it lying down. You don't want to be, standing up to do it necessarily. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. That was a little uncomfortable and activating, and I wasn't expecting to experience that. So that was my first taste with this specific breath form. And then that was that. And then in 2018 at my yoga studio, there was breath work being offered as a workshop. And I think it was like 2 hours or 2.5 hours. And the facilitator, she seemed very skilled. And at that time, I was doing work trade at the studio. So I was able to be able to access the workshop for free. Well, free, quote unquote, free with exchange, right? So I'm helping out at the studio. I'm checking people in. I'm helping the facilitator set up and tear down the space. So like I'm participating as like helping her, and then I get to experience the breathwork workshop as well. So that was my, I guess, my official dive into breath work. And because I already had a little bit of taste of it, I kind of knew what to expect when I went in for the full 2-hour workshop. And we weren't breathing for straight on 2 hours. No, I mean, I think the actual breath work in that workshop was like an hour of breath work. And then, there's however the facilitator holds the workshop, right? But I think after that experience, I really liked it. And I have to say, I've only had positive breathwork experiences. I've been fortunate and blessed to sign up with facilitators that really like they did the work, right? Like they didn't just do like a random training and then start offering it. So like there was good space. I felt held, I felt supported. And being someone who doesn't like to be told what to do, I never felt that I was forced to do anything that I didn't want to do. So like I always felt I had full agency. And so I've always had a really great experience with breath work. And I've learned over time that this is not the case for everybody. And that some people did not necessarily have a great breathwork experience with other facilitators because they weren't well informed of like possible side effects in the body or just like what they said yes to. And I feel like that is the responsibility of a facilitator to give a heads up, right? Of what might they expect. And here are some workarounds and giving full agency, right? Anyway, so since 2018, I've joined different breathwork workshops, and then and I've joined another facilitators workshops. And then when COVID hit, I started to attend ones virtually, which have all been incredibly amazing. And so that really motivated me to want to be able to offer this for other people, because I think me coming from someone who used to teach Pilates, has yoga teacher training, has taken other different form of certifications. I've studied like a different form of EFT, of tapping. I actually really love tapping. And, someone who has really briefly gone to naturopathic and Chinese medicine school, I wanted to be able to offer something where I'm not the person dictating the healing, like that just makes no sense. Like I'm not the healer. Like I shared at the beginning, like I really just want to facilitate a space where the person feels safe enough to be able to do that for themselves. And I think a part of it is also like I'm not going to be the right fit for everybody. We all have to find the right person that's a good fit for us, right? And I don't ever see myself being like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the perfect person for everybody. No. And so I come in with all of these disclaimers and also wanting to share what motivated me to do this training. And I've also shared in previous podcast episodes, back in 2020, I signed up for this training that was the reason I signed up for it is because my favorite breathwork teacher or facilitator, she got trained with this trainer. And I know a lot of other people who did. And I really enjoy my teacher who facilitates, like the one who does it locally. And also my trainer, the one I'm doing the certification through, she also trained with this person. And so I was like, okay, it sounds like this person is kind of like the right person to go to. And then it turns out that actually, that's not the case. Like, a lot of things weren't taught. It was not trauma informed. Yeah, it was just actually people were just doing the best that they could with what they were given. And so that's what motivated my trainer to actually create her own program, which when I came across her program, I knew that this is the one that I wanted to do. And but it was a commitment. So I had to get into like, okay, making sure that now is the right time. After a year and a half of being on a wait list, it's like, do I still want to do this one? And there were times when I didn't. There were times when, I looked at other opportunities for training, and I was like, maybe I'll do this one because it's still with someone that I really respect. This person is local, and I'll get it done fast, like sooner. I can get out there in the field sooner. And also there was something about Shauna's training that I was like, I still want to do hers. So here I am, 5 months in, right? And there's something to be said about putting in the work and really like taking this work seriously. Not to say that the other training wasn't to be done seriously. I mean, it was also a financial commitment. And I do respect, both of the facilitator trainers that I was looking at. It was just a matter of like, okay, which one really feels like it's the right fit? Anyway, so yeah, I feel like one of the things I wanted to share is like when it comes to breath work or any other, like one of the things I like about breath work and with EFT tapping and also Reiki is like you don't need someone in order to do this, right? So you could do breath work on your own. You could do Reiki on your own self, right? You could do tapping on your own. And I really like that because it removes the dependency. It removes like, oh, I need someone to help me heal. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that. Like we need to go to doctors, there's times when we would be best served going to doctors, right? To figure out what's happening in our body. Like it's sometimes very, very helpful. What I mean is like, I don't want it to be like, in order to have this experience, you have to go to an expert. There are some situations where that makes sense in other whatever practices, but I wanted to be able to offer something where it's like, I want to hold the space. I understand it feels really amazing to have space held, to be witnessed. But I don't want to do any of the actual healing. I don't want to be labeled as a healer. I don't want to be responsible for that. Because I really believe in sovereignty and having agency, and also recognizing that, being able to receive support, being able to be witnessed, is also important and validating at times, right? So I get that dance, right? And also like, I would totally be okay if someone was to come to like, either one-on-one, a workshop or whatever, attend one of my group programs and be like, okay, cool. I learned what I needed to learn and I can do it on my own now, right? Like totally. Like that would be amazing. And I actually do that. So one of the things I think what's motivated me when I've attended breathwork circles, whether it be virtually or in person, is like when I'm in that, that state, that it's a more heightened state of, I should just share my experience, but when I'm in that more heightened state, it's like I get all these beautiful downloads and I get very inspired and I'm like, yeah. And a lot of times when I'm in this breath work, when I'm in the zone of it, I'm always like, I want to do more of this. Like, I want to do more of this. It feels really good. I feel like it creates more space in my body. And for me, I'm releasing things I don't even know. Like, it's just like it's like a full experience. And I'm like, I don't want to just do this once in a while. I want to do this more regularly. And so there was like, actually in 2020, I did like my own 30-day breathwork quest where even for just 5 minutes, I would do my own breathwork. And even in just like 8 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes the most profound shifts would happen, where I was like, whoa, like I just moved a lot of emotions. And I know I move a lot of emotions when tears just start coming, And I'm like, whoa, okay, that felt really cathartic at the end, Or sometimes like nothing, and I end up just falling asleep because I just needed to rest. Or sometimes like I'm in my head the whole time and just could not shut the brain out. And I'm just like, okay, and not judging the experience, just knowing that at anything, I gave myself time to be. And I think that is so overlooked sometimes, just the simplicity of giving ourselves this space just to be and to breathe. And we sometimes, like, if nothing happened, we didn't experience any shifts, somehow we didn't do it right, or that wasn't a good one. And I think, like, from my experience and what I've learned is, like, any opportunity we can give ourselves the space to self-care, to tend to ourselves, is always good, right? No matter the outcome, it's always good. And when, like, with that, the 30-day breathwork quest I did, even if it was just a few minutes, right, playing one song or doing it right before I fell asleep or going to bed or when I woke up in the morning, it started to create this muscle. And then I would also join, the group ones virtually with my favorite teacher or favorite facilitator. And then when I started doing the actual certification training this year, again, we had to do like a 30-day breath work on our own. And I was like, yeah, I've done this before. Cool. And then now it's like, for me, it's like I've become so accustomed to doing the breath work. It's no longer hard for me. When I first started doing the breath work, even when I attended the circles, I mean, it's called work for a reason, right? We're doing an active breath that it requires like this conscious effort to do. It's not like we're just inhaling and exhaling autonomously, right? Like, this is a very specific pattern. And so it takes work because, like, I just feel like since doing this more regularly, like, my rib cage has gotten stronger, my lung capacity has gotten stronger. The actual rhythm and the process, it doesn't tire me out. In the past, I would literally just fall asleep. Not to say that doesn't happen now, but like in the past, during like an in-person breathwork group, I would like fall asleep because it is work. And sometimes, the facilitator would come around and maybe place hands, on my shoulders, and that would wake me back up. And I just automatically start breathing the pattern again. And like my experience in the breath work, it differs, but yeah, like I've shared, I've had like tears. It can be cathartic, especially if the facilitator guides us to start yelling into the pillow or stamping our feet on the ground, just like moving the body, allowing for emotions to get released or even just start laughing. So like every facilitator holds the space differently. I always enjoy the ones that allow us to use our voice, our vocal cords in some way, because, a lot of us have been silenced in whatever way. We don't feel like it's safe to speak up. We've been conditioned to not speak up. It was safer to fawn, to people please, and to say something. And, it's really powerful when we can exercise our vocal cords in any capacity, especially when we can express and do things that feel like a little crazy, like yelling, And I love it. And that's kind of the space that I wanted to bring for other people. And so that's what motivated me to do the facilitation training, to get certified in it. There's other scenarios when I'm participating and I get these business downloads. I'm like, oh my God, that's such a great idea that came through, Like when I launched Courage Collective, that was through breathwork. Or like when I have these aha moments, a lot of it has been through breathwork. And so breathwork has been, for me, a really amazing modality. And it's also, what was I going to say about it? Amazing modality for me to get inspired by different ideas. Oh, and then for some people, it kind of takes them out of like the current reality and into like a different time-space continuum. Like it just takes them into a different realm, right? And it can have psychedelic effects without actually ingesting drugs or whatever, psychedelics. we're inviting a chemistry change when we bring in more oxygen, right? And so the body's chemistry will shift. Obviously, you don't want to be breathing in this manner forever, right? You don't want to be going out, walking around and driving with this type of active breath. No, don't do that. But for a controlled short span of time, there are good things that can come from it. And then what I really appreciate about this training that I'm grateful that I have, that I could bring to other people, is modifications. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about my trainer, because she admits to going rogue. And I'm like, I love when people go rogue. Because it's needed, right? I'm not someone who's all around the strict rules and having to do things like this has to be the way, because that's a little bit too, I'm just not a fan, right? Unless it's like for safety reasons, you know what I mean? Like there's a protocol for a reason, right? But in terms of like trusting your body, and it's like, whoa, like when I breathe in this form, this happens and I actually don't like how it feels in my body, or like something crazy happens and I just don't feel good, or it doesn't feel safe, then step back, right? Stop the active breath. And what I really appreciate about my trainer is she'll say like, don't not like, there's, you can definitely stop, you could do that and just come back to normal in and out through your nose breathing. Or you can like shift it, and maybe instead of doing the pattern through the mouth, do it through the nose, right? And I've experimented because of that. I'm like, well, how does it feel to breathe this particular pattern, but through the nose, right? So I inhale through the nose into the belly, into the chest, and then I will exhale through the mouth. So it's like, instead of, right? Very different. It feels like it might not be a shift, like a big deal, but it actually is a difference in the body. And that when I breathe through the nose with the 3-part breath, I feel a little bit more grounded. It's a little bit more softer. I might not experience the huge quote unquote breakthrough or like the release as much as I do if I do it through mouth, but it's still a great way. And especially like if I'm on my period, breathing through the mouth is a little bit too activating for my womb. And so when I do the nostril breathing, like inhale through the nose into the belly and into the chest, exhale through the mouth, the exhale is less important, right? It's like the exhalation through the mouth, and then you pick, the focus of this particular breath work is through the nose. It's the inhalation. That I notice a shift. And I love that I got to experience, like for me, I wanted to know how it felt. So I gave myself like, okay, let's see how it's going to feel if I do nose breathing with this pattern. And I'm like, cool, I have something to speak to now, right? Instead of like, no, it has to be done this way. If you're not doing it this way, you're doing it wrong. I've actually not been in any circle where that has been told to me, where if you're not doing it this way, you're doing it wrong. And like, I like the fact that I now have like kind of like this basket of ways, because what I really want is not like you have to do this active breath work. This is the protocol. I'm teaching it to you, and now you got to follow it. I just want people to come and give themselves space to be with themselves, right? And breathe and self-care. Also knowing that this modality might not be for everybody, but it's been really powerful for me that I want to bring this to other people. So those are kind of like, what really like inspired me to, or motivated me to say yes. And also with any type of body of work, or with any type of like workshops or circles where we're actually going into like a different conscious state, I feel like there's a big responsibility for the facilitator. And it's really easy to not take it seriously, to be ego, like to be like, I'm the expert and you have to listen to me, and it feeds the ego, and when I say ego in this case, not in the good way, right? It's easy to be in the guru position of the said expert. And that was very, like, a huge reason why I decided to do this particular certification training, because it is a 400-hour training that has supervision, where it's like, okay, if something were to happen and, like, one of the participants experienced this, like, how in the future would I help this person navigate it if it were to come up, right? Because it's not so much the pattern that I'm teaching, right? The breath work itself is easy. It's what can come up from the actual breathing. And I'm not responsible for someone's healing. And if I'm creating space to allow someone to breathe and giving them the space to do that, then I need to give them options, or definitely give them a heads up and agency of, like, yes, like, make sure you're well resourced, and also, like, you can stop at any time. And also, there are contraindications, right? If there are, a history of having epilepsy or bipolar or schizophrenia, then perhaps it might not be the best modality, right? Like, then this might not be for you. And just recognizing that and, like, calling it out, just so that it's like people know that, okay, like, breath work isn't this, like, la thing. Like, I'm very much about taking things lightheartedly, but there are certain things where it's like, no, we got to take it seriously. And I take my work seriously, right? And it doesn't mean it's like, I take my work seriously, and we need to be well informed of what we are saying yes to. But to go in blindly, not knowing what to expect, thinking that it's just going to be a very easy, soothing pranayama workshop where it's going to be a stress reliever, when it's actually supposed to activate and, like, kind of rile up your nervous system in a little way, it's up to your pace. But that is what activation means, right? We're kind of, like, stimulating your nervous system. This is what it is to go in at least when I host breathwork offerings, that's what people are saying yes to. And it's to their capacity of what they want. You can always back out. You can always take it down a notch. And I've done that many times. Like, okay, that's a little bit too much. I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to slow it down, or I'm just going to breathe through my nose, because I am in full control. And that's the message I want to impart, that people are in full control, at least when they come to my future offerings. And it's also been so profound and amazing for me that it's like, this is what I want to offer, right? People. And so, so that's kind of my thoughts on breathwork, what's inspired me, and why I've wanted to say yes. And I've been in the past, before I committed, I was on the fence, because I feel like it is a huge responsibility, right? To hold space for someone, for them to breathe in this way. And also, like, as someone who isn't, like, I'm walking my talk, like, I'm doing it too. Like, I'm not going to be breathing with the participants, because I need to be holding space. Otherwise, I'll go into my own state. But, like, outside of that, like, I have my own personal practice, right? Like, I will attend other people's breathwork circles, because I'm also a participant as well. So that, I feel like, is really important. Like, it doesn't really make sense if you are a yoga teacher or a Pilates teacher or a breathwork facilitator and you're not actually having your own practice, right? That would be, I think, kind of out of integrity. Anyway, okay, with all that said, none of this was meant to scare you if you've never done breathwork before and you kind of want to try it out. Because, like I've said, like, it's, everyone will have their own experience, and I think it's worth trying out if it's something that you're curious in. And so with all of that said, there are many different practitioners to breathwork, right? And I understand that not everybody is going to jive with me and my energy and even my playlist, and that's okay. There are so many practitioners out there who, who are offering it differently. Like in my group ones and even my private one sessions, I do infuse movement because I love movement. So the difference between a one-on-one breathwork session versus a group one is like a one-on-one will obviously be tailored to you and what's happening, right? And holding space for you in the time together. And it could be for, like if the session is for an hour or 75 minutes, but your energy is feeling a little bit low maybe, and you only really want to breathe for like 20 minutes, then totally we can adjust it to that and spend more time reflecting on what's happening and just like allowing you to like just sit and be witnessed and just have space held. And in a group breath work, it's different because then you're in more of it's not catered to you. It's like, okay, we're doing this together as a group, right? And it'll be like maybe a 40-minute breath work with reflection time, and people can chime in if they want, so that it's a little bit different. But I love doing participating in group breath work circles. I think it's super fun, and the one-on-one is also great because then you get it, tailored to you. It's a little bit more intense because it's just you and the facilitator. It'll be you and me if it's something that you're interested in. But if you are interested, I will be sharing opportunities to work with me in my mailing list. They get first dibs. So if you're not already on my mailing list, I'll share that in the show notes. Or if you are curious, you can just shoot me an email, michellewong.xo, or you can DM me over on Insta, michellewong.xo. Oh, if you want to send me an email, michellewong.xo@gmail.com, just to let me know that you are interested in learning more, or you want to be added to my mailing list. And for the first few, so for this, my intention, if I can get my act together and send it out for this upcoming week. So basically the week that this podcast episode is published, I'll send out to my email list first a few limited spots of working with me at discounted rates. And it'll be kind of like a package style. So right now it's like discounted rates if you purchase like a 3-pack with me, and this first round is designed to be accessible, so like price wise. So yeah, if you are interested, please let me know. And I hope that this breathwork episode was helpful for you, and I definitely encourage you to check it out. Yeah. All right. Thank you for tuning in. And please share this episode with anyone you think might be interested. And if you haven't already subscribed to this podcast, please do. Episodes for season 5 drop every Tuesday. And thank you for being here, and so much love. Cheers. To help you feel more supported and nourished in your body and nervous system, you're invited to download the free I Am Supported meditation in the show notes. May you feel grounded in who you are as you become the fullest expression of yourself. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing with those who can benefit. Until next time.